It was a night devoid of stars, the kind of darkness that seemed to swallow all light and hope. Emma had always prided herself on her fearless spirit, her willingness to embrace challenges others wouldn't dare. So, when her friends dared her to take a solitary drive down the infamous Shadowmoor Lane, she laughed off their warnings and accepted without hesitation. Shadowmoor Lane had a reputation steeped in mystery and terror. Locals whispered of strange occurrences, of drivers who ventured down its winding path and were never seen again. Emma, however, dismissed these stories as nothing more than superstitious nonsense, relics of an overactive imagination. With her car's tank full and her determination unwavering, she set out to conquer the road. The lane was a narrow strip of asphalt cutting through a dense forest. Towering trees lined either side, their gnarled branches intertwining overhead, forming an almost impenetrable canopy. The only illumination came from her car's headlights, slicing through the inky blackness. As she drove deeper, the road seemed to narrow, the trees pressing closer as if trying to encroach on her solitary journey. A strange sensation prickled at the back of her neck, a feeling of being watched. Emma shook it off, attributing it to the eerie atmosphere. She turned on the radio to dispel the unsettling silence, but it refused to cooperate, emitting only static. Frustrated, she turned it off and focused on the road ahead. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as the lane twisted and turned, each curve more disorienting than the last. Shadows danced at the edge of her vision, fleeting and indistinct. Emma tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her earlier bravado beginning to wane. The isolation was oppressive, the silence deafening. Yet she pressed on, determined to reach the end of the lane and prove her friends wrong. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life, its static interrupted by a distorted voice. Emma's heart leaped into her throat as she strained to make sense of the garbled words. "Turn back, you shouldn't be here." The voice was faint but unmistakable, each word dripping with menace. "Who's there?" Emma demanded, her voice trembling. There was no response, only more static. A chill ran down her spine as she glanced at the darkened woods beyond her windows. Something about this place felt inherently wrong, as if the road itself were alive and resentful of her presence. Her headlights caught movement up ahead. A figure appeared in the distance, standing in the middle of the lane. Emma slowed the car, her pulse quickening. It was a girl, drenched and barefoot, her long hair obscuring her face. Emma's instincts screamed at her to turn around, to leave immediately, but something compelled her to stop. She rolled down her window slightly, her voice hesitant. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The girl didn't respond. Instead, she slowly lifted her head, revealing hollow black eyes that seemed to bore into Emma's soul. A wave of nausea and fear washed over her. Emma's hand darted to the gear shift, but before she could react, the girl's lips twisted into a chilling smile. The car's engine sputtered and died, plunging Emma into silence and darkness. Panic surged through her veins as she frantically tried to restart the vehicle. The girl's figure loomed closer, her movements unnaturally jerky, as if controlled by invisible strings. Emma's breaths came in short, panicked gasps. She locked the doors and grabbed her phone, only to find it devoid of signal. The girl's face was now inches from her window, her expression unreadable but deeply unsettling. Emma could hear a faint whispering, a chorus of voices overlapping in a haunting melody. Then, as abruptly as she had appeared, the girl vanished. Emma's car roared back to life, and she didn't hesitate. She slammed her foot on the accelerator, the tires screeching as she sped down the lane. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing like a drum. She didn't dare look back, terrified of what she might see. The road seemed endless, stretching far beyond what she remembered from the map. Each curve felt like a cruel joke, leading her deeper into the labyrinth. Shadows grew darker, more oppressive, and the whispering voices grew louder, filling her ears and drowning out her thoughts. In her desperation, she thought she saw lights ahead, a sign of civilization, of escape. Relief flooded her chest as she pushed the car to its limits, racing towards salvation. But as she drew closer, the lights flickered and dissolved into nothingness, leaving her alone once more. Exhaustion began to take its toll. Emma's grip on the wheel faltered, her vision blurred. Just as she was about to succumb to despair, the road abruptly ended. Her car skidded to a halt in front of an old, decrepit house. Its windows were dark, its facade weathered and crumbling. Against her better judgment, Emma stepped out of the car. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. She approached the house cautiously, each step feeling heavier than the last. The door creaked open before she could touch it, revealing a dimly lit interior. Emma hesitated, but the pull of curiosity was too strong. She stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under her weight. The air was cold, carrying the faint scent of decay. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent. They seemed to come from all directions, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Emma's hands trembled as she clutched her phone, its flashlight her only source of light. She followed the sound, drawn deeper into the house. At the end of a narrow hallway, she found a room bathed in an eerie, otherworldly glow. In the center stood a mirror, its surface rippling like water. Emma approached it cautiously, her reflection distorted and fragmented. The whispers grew deafening as she reached out to touch the glass. The moment her fingers made contact, a surge of cold engulfed her. The room dissolved around her, replaced by an endless void. Emma's screams echoed into the emptiness as she was pulled into the mirror, her body vanishing without a trace. Back on Shadowmoor Lane, her car sat abandoned, its engine still running. The forest reclaimed its silence, the whispers fading into the night. Emma, like so many before her, had become another victim of the cursed road, her fate a chilling mystery that would haunt the town forever.